My name is Joe Milligan. I'm a retired U.S. Air Force colonel. And as a young first lieutenant, I was assigned to Southeast Asia, flying out of Thailand. And I actually flew combat in 3 different airplanes in Southeast Asia. I flew the O-1F Bird Dog as a forward air controller, operating in Laos. I was also flying a T-28 with the 606 Air Commando Squadron out of Nakhon Phanom, Thailand, flying interdiction missions along the Ho Chi Minh Trail in both North Vietnam and Laos. But the bulk of my flying tour in Southeast Asia was as a fighter pilot flying the F-4C out of Ubon Air Base, Thailand, attacking targets deep into North Vietnam. I was shot down on my 113th combat mission and ejected from a burning airplane that was nothing but a great big fireball. And it immediately became a fireball myself until my parachute opened and the flame was snapped out. But in the process, I suffered some very serious burns, which included 3rd-degree burns and a 360-degree circumference around both forearms that extended from the wrists to the elbows. When I was captured and transported to the prison camp that we all lovingly referred to as the Hanoi Hilton, I underwent torture, and my burned arms got seriously infected, and I received no medical attention. The most immediate problem I faced were the injuries, including those infected forearms. And I remembered instructions that I received in survival school. And that was simply, if you have a battlefield injury and you have no ability to receive medical attention, then let flies get at your wounds. And that's what I did. And the flies landed on my arm. They laid very tiny little eggs, almost microscopic. And in about an hour later, the eggs hatched out as tiny little maggots. And for the next 3 days, those maggots feasted on the dead flesh of my forearms. The next part of the instruction on treating an injury like that was to flush the maggots off with sterile fluid. Well, I'm living in a little tiny, dark, dirty cell without much in the way of hygiene in the Hanoi Hilton. And where am I going to get sterile fluid from? Well, the answer to that question is midstream urine. So I flushed the maggots off of my arm with my own midstream urine. And you wouldn't believe what those wounds now looked like. They were just clean, very pristine, smooth tissue. And the third part of the procedure of treating a wound like that yourself was then to wrap the wounds in clean white cotton cloth. Well, again, I'm in this dirty little jail cell in the Hanoi Hilton. Where am I going to get clean white cotton cloth from? Well, fortunately, if you want to look at it this way, when I was captured, the enemy stripped me of all my clothing with the exception of my Batman t-shirt, which I always wore for good luck. And people often ask me, well, did it bring you good luck or not? And all I can respond to that question is, well, I'm here talking about it, so I guess it did. Another injury that I suffered was when I hit the ground. I landed on top of an 8,000 foot tall mountain, actually on a slight downslope, and my right leg took the full brunt of the impact, and I tore the ligaments in my right knee. 6 years later, when I got repatriated and was examined by a team of flight surgeons, they confirmed that I had suffered a complete tear of both the medial and the lateral collateral ligaments in my right knee. And I proceeded to explain to the flight surgeons then that I was forced to stand up and climb down that mountain on my own accord and then go on a forced march the rest of the night. And the flight surgeon said, "But you can't do that." And I said, "What do you mean I can't do that?" And they said, "Well, if that type of injury occurred to you on a football field, you wouldn't be able to stand up, let alone walk off. You would have to have been carted off on a gurney." And I said, "Well, this was deep in the jungles of North Vietnam. It wasn't a football field, and the enemy didn't have gurneys. All they had was bayonets that they kept sticking me in the back with and forced me to stand up and start walking. All I can say is I don't know how I did it, but the thought that went through my mind at the time was, I am not ready to die." But I went through torture like most of the prisoners in North Vietnam did. And in the process, both of my shoulders were completely dislocated. And again, there was no medical treatment. And to this day, I still have pain in those shoulders. There's rarely a day goes by that I don't feel pain. It's something I don't even think about unless I'm sitting doing a recording like this. But I have good days and bad days, and some days I can raise my arms above my shoulders, and some days I can't. And today it looks like it's a good day. There's a lot of bad things that happen, but I look at the good things that come out of it. And if you wanted to know what the good things are, I'd be here for hours smiling and talking about it. But I'm not bitter about the experience. I don't feel any hatred towards anybody. I've lived a long life, and I have no complaints. I volunteered to go to Vietnam. I didn't volunteer to become a prisoner of war, but if I had to do it all over again, I'd make the same decisions.